Alright, we're going to begin part 3 of this lesson. We're going to be using InDesign, and we're going to finish the text wrap, and we're going to go to the next page and work on our text wrap. As you can see, we've just learned how to wrap the text here and resize our images. So let's go to page number 2, and so I'm going to, actually I'm on page 2, excuse me, and we've got columns 5, 6, and column 1, which is going to be our cover. And now we're going to go to page number 1. Now, how do I get to page number 1? Well, I can double click on this right here, and now I'm on page number 1. And this is going to be columns 2, 3, and 4. All right, in our brochure, which we've talked about in class. So that should be ingrained in your brain. All right, now what if I want the text? I want to keep this image this size and all of these this size. So how do I get the text to wrap around this image and then go down the side so that it still looks nice? And that's what we're going to do right now. Well, as you found out in the last lesson, part 2, we have text wrap buttons, and we're going to use these text wrap buttons to wrap around our text. Now this button here, as you can see, this button here is just for wrapping text around a shape, such as a circle, a triangle, a heart shape, a star shape. An octagon shape. This button is to simply just wrap your text around the image and have it move down the right hand side and the left hand side of the image, as well as around the top and the bottom. And then this button here is just for text wrapping, and where it's just going to have lines above, no text on either the right or the left side of the image, and just text above or below. So we're going to select this text wraparound shape, and we'll see how it looks. The nice thing about this is you can see how it puts a nice little framed area around the outside, and it gives the text a little distance outside the image. I really like this text wrap. Whereas if I select this image and I use the text wrap that goes down both the right and left side, you can see how the text is justified and it sits right on the edge of the text, and that does not look nearly as nice as what we have here. This is what you would find in newspaper, magazines. There is a reason for this, but I really don't want to get into it, but I would not choose this for my brochure. It just doesn't look nice. And of course the one that we used before, which is the text above and below, and absolutely no text on the left or the right. Now there's too much distance here on the left and the right, so I definitely would choose to have text on the left or the right side with this nice little framing around this image. Okay, and if I want to resize these images, again I have to use my my free transform tool after I've selected the image, and now I can resize this so that it fits how I want it to fit in this document. Okay. Now the bad thing about text wrap is you can get right out to the edges and you can see how small the text is. Now this is bad, you don't want to do this. You get to a point where you just can't even read it. So you don't want to have text wrapping down the sides like this where you can barely make out how the words are being broken down into syllables and spaced out. It just doesn't look very nice, it doesn't read nice, and whoever is reading this isn't going to want to read this. They're just going to skip past any important information that you have. Okay? So make sure that you don't fall into this trap. Just because you can use a tool doesn't mean you should use a tool, and it certainly doesn't mean that you should use it in a fashion that's not going to help your reader look at this document and enjoy reading. Okay? You really have to look at these documents in a way that you feel as though you've never seen this document before. Okay? And so I would be very careful when using these tools. Make sure that you can understand what you're looking at, but also at the same time you're taking into consideration what somebody who's never seen this before is looking at. You've got to sort of step outside of yourself and imagine that you're looking at it for the first time, just as another viewer would. Alright, so we're going to take our selection tool, select another image, and we're going to wrap our text, because if I'm going to wrap text, this is the one that I choose to use a lot, and I enjoy using this one because it just looks nice. And of course our last image here, collapse that pages menu that was here and wrap text around this image. Maybe I want to expand this a little so it's just a little bit taller. She's a nice tall picture, and maybe we can make it look nice that way and take up some more space. Notice we have a landscaped image, landscape, more of a square image, and then we have a nice tall image. And I'm thinking about the positioning of my images so that the text reads well, but the positioning of the images balances on the left side and the right side of this document. And so let's go ahead and wrap the text, and that doesn't look too bad. And maybe this image here needs to bounce up just a little bit so it equals out here with the image on the right. And there we go. I think maybe just a little higher up. And you can see how I'm just kind of playing with the text a little bit because I don't like the way it reads. I might get rid of this word here because it doesn't look very nice the way it's situated up here on the text. That looks a little better. So you can manipulate the text as you're going here. I clearly have done that with my text. Okay, and I'm going to put a space back in here. There we go. Now, as you're working and as you're creating your document, you can easily see how these all look and how nice they look. And that's what we're really going for, is a nice overall look. Let's go back to our Pages menu here, select it, and go back to page 1, and you can see now how this lays out very nicely. Okay, I probably if I were doing a real brochure, I wouldn't have text wrap that's different on this page, and then go back to my Pages menu here, and then wrapping on this page. I would do everything the same and relatively the same size images. But for your benefit of this lesson, I've changed the size of these pictures and their position. Now, let's quickly go to our images and learn how to do a drop shadow. I'm going to select an image, and I want to put a drop shadow, a nice little faded out area to give this a more three-dimensional professional look. And it's a way to give your brochure that little pop or pizzazz or that special look. And so what we're going to do is come right up here to our little drop shadow button and add a drop shadow. And I just clicked on the button and it gives me a default drop shadow. And let's go ahead, we're going to do this to each one on this page. And the only drawback to this is they're all the same color and they're all the same size, but it does carry a theme. It does look nice. We'll go over to page 1 here, or excuse me, page 2, and we'll do the same thing with our images. And we'll just create a nice little drop shadow. Now, what if I want to add color to these drop shadows? Well, very quickly, what we're going to do is we're going to use this effects button. And actually, FX is short for effects, E-F-F-E-C-T, effect. And so we're going to select our effect button, and we're going to select drop shadow, and this will give us a menu. And here's how you work with your colors. I'm going to double click on this color here, and this is my menu. So 75% opacity. This is the offset. This tells you how far to the right and how far down your shadow is going to go, and this is your angle. And here's our color. I'm going to double click on the color. The first thing I need to do is select one of these 3 colors, does not matter which one. Now I can select my CMYK with that little button, and now I can change these sliders to give me a color that I want. Okay, and that's what you're going to do today. Okay, and I'm going to select OK. And when I select OK, basically what I'm doing here is agreeing that the 75% opacity is okay, and that means the green is going to come out a bit lighter than this, about 25% less than what you see here, because that's 100% color. And so now I've got a nice green drop shadow. There you go. All right, we're going to continue on with part 4. Email me if you have any questions. If not, I'll see you in class and you can ask me there. Good luck with this lesson. I hope this was helpful.